Hey, did you guys hear about the Niners defensive coordinator position? We talked. I think we talked last time about them interviewing Dave Merritt, which I guess makes some sense.
Uh-huh.
Do you guys see that the 49ers tried to hire Steve Spagnuolo as their defensive coordinator?
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Hey, man,
Welcome
I
into
know.
a show hosted by three people who have not been hired by the San Francisco 49ers.
Look, man, I know he just signed the contract, but has the ink dried yet? Can we get him on a flight? Can he meet us in Indy?
The greatest, unbelievable, shortest-term story, maybe in NFL history, and certainly of this offseason at this point. We will talk about L'Jarius Sneed, Chris Jones's emoji usage, and a lot of other things. But that one is certainly the lowest impact, highest ceiling, hilarity-wise.
I did just want to let you guys know that I have offered Andy Reid a job as a guest columnist at the Chief of the North newsletter. I haven't heard back yet, but I've decided in the spirit of the San Francisco 49ers saying, hey, do you want to come here and probably make less money and have less freedom with your defense? What's the offer there? Like, hey, you know how Kyle Shanahan just fired a guy as a scapegoat?
Right.
Rumors are that he makes his guys kind of run a lot of cover 3
Hold
stuff.
on.
Steve, do you like showing the same look on the back end?
Tucker, you can just go to the intro liner for this one. This is the intro now, and it should be. Go ahead, Nate.
Seth, let me advise you that Maria from Philly, what if we sent her across the entire country?
Yeah.
What if we did that? What if, halfway it's just about good enough? She's done it before. She's been to St. Louis. She now lives in Kansas City. What if we just sent her
St.
Italian,
Louis,
you know what,
Missouri,
across the country? Yeah. What if we just sit? Do they have a big Charlie's in San Francisco?
I'd be pretty surprised. You guys have done a wonderful thing for the start of this show, which is to pick two entirely unrelated elements of why that's nonsense, and neither one of them were the reason I wanted to talk about why this is such hot nonsense. There's just so many layers to it. Imagine being the San Francisco 49ers and telling, as both of you have mentioned, step one, Steve, we would need you, a native East Coaster, to leave your Midwestern roots where you just finally really settled in this last year, because I read and listen to Nate. So we're gonna need you to bring that all the way over to San Francisco. Actually, you will be filling the shoes of a one and done former sort of head coach, defensive coordinator who got fired after having a tremendous regular season defensively. And look, we talked about it. There wasn't a lot of schematic twists and turns of that Niners defense, but Steve Wilks got fired because he lost to Patrick Mahomes. That guy got fired. You, Steve, just helped lead your second consecutive parade when your players were wearing shirts with your face all over them. We trust was the memo, was the MO, was the mantra of this entire defense for the back half of the year through the playoff run. Go replace this fired scapegoat so you can be a fired scapegoat in 2 years. It's crazy.
Also, the other part, Josh, is we know how this works, right? We get to talking to people. People start talking to other people. It's a big round of telephone. But at some point, somebody's got to go, hey, Diana, go put it out there. Put the word out there. We tried to get Spags. I just want to know the look on Diana's face when she was like, but why?
You want us to tell people this?
Why?
That's like, I really want you guys to know. I just about revealed something embarrassing about myself. Don't even know what. You don't put that information out there.
Yes. How is that benefiting you? How? Though, yeah. I will give the Titans this, okay? I know there's been some, I won't say backlash, but there was a visceral reaction to Diana's report about Mike Vrabel being too much of a macho man to...
Oh, because it's also hysterical. It's not Diana. No issue with Diana's report. Issue with the NFL and that being the landing spot. Delicious.
Right. And so, okay, if you think he's the best coach on the market, but he rubs you the wrong way. There are other ways of saying that other than he's big and tall. Yeah,
Yes.
he's a former NFL player. Well, he intimidates me because he's big and tall. Well, we need to more further discuss your issues, not the existence of the guy who somehow got Ryan Tannehill to be a Pro Bowler. Okay, like what are we doing? So like, I understand that because you're like, well, we want to give a reason for why it maybe didn't work out or how we didn't sort of fit schematically or metaphorically or even from a philosophical standpoint. Okay, fine. If you think he's too much of a rough and gruff guy and you want to be smart, analytically driven, sure. How you present that, that's clearly your prerogative. But also, Diana, look, man, we talked to Brendan Staley. I mean, like, he gonna come aboard. I mean, he cool. And, like, I mean, we got to interview somebody. So, I mean, you know, like, but he just signed his extension? He just signed his extension. Andy don't ever let anybody of his top assistants go unless they go to a head coach job. Right. And when did he sign that? After beating us? Literally within days? Like on the parade? He was on the bus.
Day of the parade?
He was signing his contract on the double-decker bus after beating us. Hey, go put it out there. We tried to holler at him. Even though he didn't pick us, even though he ain't interested in us, we still was trying to holler. We was just like, hey, holler for $1. Come on now. Don't you want to see?
It's like a three-time divorcee who just happens to be seated right up against the suite, just turning around and being like, Taylor, right? Hey, no, me. You should talk to me. It's ridiculous.
No,
ridiculous.
I personally think that commenter Lev Mass is correct and also has a really good understanding of this show. It's like Satan asking Jesus if he could hire the Holy Spirit for next season. Like that is, man, our listeners and viewers, you guys get the show. And look, I really appreciate that about you because it is. It's like, you know.
It's hard to beat
this omnipresent spirit seems like he'd be a good signing. I wonder if I could lure him away to the right situation. Like, I'm trying to think, like, what amount of money would they have to have offered Spags? Also, I don't think you're allowed to just steal people unless you promote them. And like, you can't just have people,
it would be
like,
weird.
It has to be like to an assistant head coach position or something like that. But also, again, people have kind of leaked that, like, Shanahan likes to kind of, you know, he doesn't like tell them what to do with the defense schematically, but he kind of likes to kind of like just put his finger in the coffee a little bit, and nobody likes that.
Is like, that a phrase? That seems bad.
It's
hot and bad for it's bad for your finger and the coffee. So that actually might be the right analogy, Seth. You might have nailed it.
Yeah, he's testing the temperature. Hey, let me help you test the temperature of that coffee. Well, I'm actually an expert in coffee. I've been studying it my entire life, and I'm the one who prepared this coffee. And I couldn't get through the explanation there.
But
next time, if you would just go ahead,
blitz,
if you would just
Steve.
go ahead and let me.
Not another blitz.
And then in the meantime, there's how Andy handles his defensive coordinators, where it's like, oh, you made coffee? Hey, man, that's great. Thanks. Like I didn't even know. I was on the walk with the dog. I hadn't done anything this morning. And so, like, to go from that level of autonomy, and I just, the whole thing is funny to me. And it really is. Someone once said to me, and I know this is an expression, that you can't confuse being busy with being productive. And calling Steve Spagnuolo is not being productive. That is being busy. And then leaking that, like, hey, we did something really stupid today. Like, what? No, you hide those stupid things. You don't tell the world you did it. It's like, hey, you know, I threw a rock at a pigeon and broke a window. Don't tell anyone. Quit admitting it. Hey, you know, I took a little methamphetamine before I drove today. Like, those are not the things you should be saying. The behavior is really escalating, by the way.
Yeah, are those equal in your book, person? Yeah. They're both not good.
You know, you break one part of the law, you're guilty of it all, Josh.
You know, just because we went out on a double date, you know, Steve's kind of hot now. Have you looked at Steve lately? Steve's really hot. I mean, you know, it was a fun date. Yeah. And the more he kept talking, the more I just kept looking at his teeth and his smile. And the other thing I was going to say before we move on is, when I think about the Holy Spirit being put on the trade block, as if that would ever happen.
Exactly. Thank you, Nate, for starting.
God's got to rebuild somewhere. I don't know.
I just think of Charlie. I really think of Charlie Day, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, sitting in the lawyer's office, going, "No, we've had our battles. We go tit for tat. You win some, I win some," and God's like, "What are you doing?"
That is such a great scene.
I'm just saying, I mean, trying to beat all three of you guys is tough enough. So, what if we went 2 for 2, 2 on 2?
I don't think he's going to break up the triumvirate, but I do think he could probably part with a couple of archangels. I just feel like that.
Yeah.
That could be. There's some flexibility under the cap there. Here's my other thing for you, Nate. I know it's going to be so long in all likelihood before we hear from Spags again, OTAs probably, unless he's on a random podcast. Luckily, by the way, open invite, Steve. You're welcome anytime.
Yeah, you're welcome anytime.
You don't have to quit your current job to take this one just to show up and be a guest at any point. I like to think that we would have earned that cameo, but you've got to ask him at some point. Did a member of the San Francisco 49ers organization ever make your phone ring? Did they ever light your phone up with a text or a phone call? I don't think any of this could even get him in trouble. So I'm hoping he wouldn't have his guard way up about it. I just want to know how seriously the Niners were like, no, I've got the solution. That's the guy. That's the guy.
Or I'm surprised they didn't call Andy and ask if Patrick Mahomes was available in a trade.
The famous phrase. If you can't beat him, hire him.
Yeah.
Hey,
if you can't beat them, make them join you.
Hey, Dave Merritt, it's really nice to meet you. Do you have Steve's number? Could you write it on a piece of paper right here?
Was he the backup plan? Did that just leak out of order, or did they start with Dave Merritt and they're like, "Hey, so probably not going to be you. What about your boss?"
Yeah, it just the Holy Spirit really moved me to get in a room with you, and now the Holy Spirit is telling me, I would like to offer you the same job.
Yeah.
Literally the same job. You talk about corporate ladders. Nah, baby, slide on to this ladder on the same exact ring, on the same exact height, with the same about glass ceiling, maybe?
With a bunch of guys you didn't pick. A bunch of guys you had no part in deciding.
Yeah.
A staff that can you just bring your entire...
A bunch of guys who haven't been in your defense. Think about the stuff that really matters to Steve Spagnuolo right now. That's something we talk about all the time because he talks about it all the time. It's man, it was just such a breath of fresh air once everybody got on the same page, and this group is so smart, and we were able to execute everything I wanted to execute. I'm going to roll the dice to take a worse job.
Well, they could have told him, hey, we have Fred Warner. He's a less elite Nick Bolton. And so, you could build your defense
around you. He knows all the checks. He'll get everybody lined up.
Your defense will never be aligned wrong. Now, will occasionally Nick Bosa just fire after the
misses
running back,
assignment? Sure. Yeah.
Wherever the ball is going, it won't matter. He is hunting down the running back. He's actually still chasing him down the backside as Mahomes scampers. But yeah, no, this is just really good evidence. Obviously, people love to, when I do my job or, analyzing certain things, people love to say well, I'm pretty sure Spags knows more than you do. I'm pretty sure this team knows more than you do. And they do. NFL teams always know more than I do. Always. Correct. 1,000,000 times more, 1 billion, a quadrillion, infinity more. But they also do stuff like this. They're not infallible. They do weird things what about that guy, that we played in the Super Bowl, Steve something. Should we call him? Yeah, why didn't we think of that sooner?
Hey, Coach, I heard his contract's up. Yeah. How long when did his contract come up? Oh, I think literally Sunday night or Monday morning, depending on your preference.
Yeah.
Call him.
And I want to be clear. What a great. So is this really an anti-shoot your shot segment? No, always shoot your shot. Well, maybe not always.
Maybe
there's a time and a place for shot shooting.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I don't know. If you're at the gym, fellas, Leave the pretty blonde lady alone. She's probably married to a guy who's not good enough for her, and it really hurts his feelings that other guys keep hitting on her. For example, hypothetically.
Seth, do you want to pick the next topic?
No,
Let's talk about Chris Jones. Who is he now? Josh, I'm an old school guy. I don't really be on the internets. And I
got your updates on this one if you want.
I heard Chris Jones was out here using emojis. What are emojis?
All right, cool.
What?
We're gonna the L'Jarius Sneed conversation will probably be the bulk of the show, but I think opening with Spags and the quote Chris Jones quote news unquote is perfect because this is the appetizer, baby. We're getting your appetite ready for some L'Jarius Sneed updates here in a second. Here's a story you shouldn't care about, but will absolutely show up in front of your eyes, so you may as well know about it. This started this morning when Mike Garafolo on NFL Network was talking to, I guess, James Palmer and Steve Wyche, I think.
Sure.
Was the trio on NFL Network.
Yes.
Talking about just like franchise tags and Chris Jones came up and all of that. I'm going to read you the quote because I wrote it all up on arrowheadreport.com. I don't have the audio ready. The audio is also funny, but it's going to sound funny when I read it also because it's going to sound like the hemming and hawing that Mike Garafolo was doing. He said, quote, multiple teams in the AFC West need help on the defensive line. This was after Palmer and Wyche pressed him like, hey, man, you said another team in the AFC West. What do you mean?
I.e. all three, but go ahead.
But right. Garafolo continues, I'm just saying the place where he played his last game as a Chief, maybe his first game is somebody, I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't know. Who knows? He goes off into a little thing about maybe the Chiefs playing week 1 in Vegas and then says he doesn't know that either. And then he ends with, I'm just trying to find a way to not allude.
Mike? What?
I'm just trying to find a way to not allude to the fact that it's the Raiders I'm talking about. So that's the news. That's the news. Those guys are all plugged in. They are all sourced.
Yes,
if Garafolo would have said this morning, guys, I've heard that the Las Vegas Raiders are really interested in Chris Jones. They've got the salary cap space. Antonio Pierce loves him, and they're blah, 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 blah. If you would have said all of that, I would have written that this morning.
Just jab us up, baby. Jab us up. The Raiders
are interested. Here's their budget.
Jones.
Chris wants this money. Yeah.
Yes. Just jab us up.
Anything in that realm, I would have written up this morning on Arrowhead Report. Just be like, hey, news thing. Insider says, here's where we're at, right? I saw that clip this morning and I went, no, not today. That's not gonna make it for me today. And then several hours later, Chris Jones responds to a fan, shout out to Game Day Gourmet, who quote tweeted a story about that Garafolo anecdote. And the Chiefs fan tweets, you do this and you're dead to us at Stone Cold Jones. Chris Jones responds to that Twitter user with a handshake emoji. That's it. It's his only original tweet in a long time. That's the tweet. Now you may be saying, okay, what's going on here? I would say if you've been listening to this show for more than a year, you know what's going on here. If you didn't, I'd like to take you back to a day in time. I'd like to take you back to September 10th, 2023. When a Twitter user at Royals Please Win tweeted at Chris Jones and said, we don't care, sign your contract. Chris Jones responded to that fan with, shut up. The next day, Chris Jones signed his contract.
Yeah,
Chris Jones went through an entire offseason of this. He talked about everybody has buttholes and opinions. He said that at the Ronald McDonald House of Memory Serves.
Yes, he did.
This is a place we have been before. It's too bad that it's Groundhog Day. The vibes are pretty good the first few days of the month. They feel worse today because the Raiders stuff. I don't know. But that's the news with giant, oversized, comedically large air quotes. Nate, what do you think about any of that?
Can I pull back some threads?
Oh, yeah.
It is not surprising to me that Chris Jones would like to insert himself in said discussions. Now, the Raiders are the most logical team in the division who could offer him perhaps more money than the Kansas City Chiefs. This we know. Chris Jones knows this. Chris Jones has been, I was told, he's been kept up to date a lot more this year at this time than last year. Obviously, he does not have a contract. Obviously, he would like to have a little bit more say this time around this year than last year. Chris Jones also
I think of two good reasons why.
Chris Jones also knows who's the owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. It's Mark Davis. Chris Jones knows what Mark Davis did. He brought the team from the Bay to Las Vegas. He put the team in a sparkling new stadium. He put the team in a state-of-the-art new facilities. And he also understands that Mark Davis ain't got no problems writing checks. Now, his own financial stability is a bit unorthodox. Unorthodox is what I'll say.
Bouncing is a problem, but I mean,
his finances are structured.
Writing the checks isn't a problem.
That's what I said. That's what I said. Hey, professional journalist over here. He does not have a problem writing
he knows where
checks.
You put the numbers. He knows where you write it out in words,
and then you sign that thing off. Now,
do I put "and" where there's supposed to be a period? It's $100 and no.
Now, kids. Seth and Nate used to write checks to buy things.
Yes, I used to go to the grocery store.
Kind of like if Venmo was on paper.
I used to go to the grocery store and say,
"What?
Tell me what I need to put down, good sir. These pears really are a deal.
$157 and 87/100ths.
Could you show me where?
Wonderful.
Could you show me where the plum peaches are?
It's wonderful how these pizzas are 3 for 99 cents. What a wonderful time.
What a deal. What do I owe you?
Let's go. Let's go
and then,
get on our bicycle with a comically large front tire and bike home.
I used to love my grandma.
Can you
shaking that thing off, being like, all right, now no. Let me just fold it. Let me rip it. Let me shake that thing off. Here you go. Now don't check that till Tuesday, okay?
You can go ahead and not
don't cash it until Tuesday at 3:30, okay? That's the way my money works. That's the way my money is set up. Don't cash this. Tell Frank in the back, I got it. But I got it.
I'm glad we did this bit because I had a check I forgot to cash earlier.
Anyway, that was a rumor I heard in Indianapolis, was the idea that could Chris Jones go to the Raiders because the Raiders might be the team most sprung to give him the most amount of money if he does reach free agency next week. That's what I heard. That it may not be the Houston Texans. It may not be the Detroit Lions.
I would have thought the Texans.
The Atlanta Falcons are like kind of murking. They're murky. They're murky
Don't
right
Google
now.
that.
They're
Don't
in a
Google
lot
that.
of
Seth Google that. Actually,
don't do that. They're doing a lot. Trying to think of who
sounds
else.
like it.
The Atlanta Falcons. Here's what I need to know. Guys, the offseason doesn't start with the Chicago Bears. In fact, it actually starts with the Atlanta Falcons. What are the Falcons doing? Do something. Because if you do something, guess what? Then the Bears will do something. Then guess what? We'll have actual transactions. I don't need to hear about so-and-so getting cut today when I was like, damn, he's still in the league? So come on, Atlanta. Make a decision. We all know what the decision is. Trade for him. You're not gonna outbid yourself, my guy. But anyway, yeah. The Texans could offer what the Chiefs may be able to match.
Seth, this is a WikiHow article. I'm not going to read it to you, but just for context clues so you can get a little more information on what that is.
So if the Houston Texans offer Chris Jones a deal, say in free agency,
the Chiefs on the internet, huh?
The Chiefs might be able to match. What Mark Davis is going to do is, crab in a barrel, blow that thing up to see if it's necessary, if that's what it takes to get Chris Jones. So Chris Jones knows this. The Cash brothers know this. I mean, Mike Garafolo knows this, and I know this. We know this.
What does Chris Jones's the handshake emoji mean to you, Nate? Ideally, can you describe it in one? If you had to use an emoji to dictate your feelings about Chris Jones's emoji,
it's just a way to say bet.
But what emoji would you use in response to Chris Jones's emoji?
That's a great question. I would use I would use some form of laughter. I like the one where you laugh, but you're sort of tilted. You're sort of at a diagonal.
Yeah.
I would do that one.
I'm choosing to treat it differently. You know what he was saying?
Okay.
Deal. You're right, sir. I agree with you that signing with the
It would be
Raiders is
crazy.
something I would never do.
Which he has said, again, I want to make it very clear, guys. Chris Jones has been very public in saying that he only wants to play for the Kansas City Chiefs. He has no intentions of playing elsewhere, but please let me get to free agency by Tuesday at 4:00.
Yeah. And I mean, these negotiations are what they are. I do appreciate the fact that, I mean, it's peak offseason. It's a non-story story. He's just like, yes, the Raiders are interested in Chris Jones if he becomes a free agent. Do you know who else is interested in Chris Jones? Every
31
other
other teams?
team
About 10
in the
teams.
NFL.
About
there's
10 legitimate teams, yeah.
Right. And when you say 10 legitimate teams, most free agents have a market of maybe like 4 or 5 teams that are legitimately interested.
Correct.
Usually it's like 1 or 2. Most free agents that aren't superstars, if they get 3 teams interested, then you get a little bit
now,
more.
Baby.
That's
we
the
cooking.
magic. If you get 2, you're good. If you get 1, hey, thank goodness. This is just how it works in the NFL. Yes, of course teams want Chris Jones. I personally, the team I'm the most scared of, I've said this before, is Houston, because they've got a ton of cap space. I think they're a year ahead. I don't even want to know what Nate's looking at.
Tucker just asked me. I just sent him the link. I just sent you guys the link in the group chat. Just if you have any questions. It's cartoons. It's fine.
And so, oh gosh. Oh, I'm so afraid.
Unbelievable.
But so this is just, Houston scares me because they're a team that genuinely has talent and a ton of cap space, and I feel like they could legitimately, with where their guys are at.
These are legitimately great photos.
Unreal.
They
really good art.
Chris
Unreal.
Jones
Oh yeah. Get the shower head on there.
Ridiculous amount of money. I'm gonna power through and analyze. I refuse.
Let me ask you this, Seth. What emoji would you use to describe your current emotions regarding the Chris Jones saga?
It would be.
Think about it and take a break.
Oh crap. Yes! That counts as a win for me.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
Paul DeSantis asks, Nate, what do you believe is the highest average that they would go for Chris? Now, Paul,
I'm look at his phone and mouth. Oh.
now, Paul, I'm assuming you mean the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Here's where rubber meets the road, honestly. As we talked about before, is it the annual value per salary that you care about, or is it the guaranteed dollars? Most people will tell you want to get a big guarantee and a pretty big roster bonus, so some of that money comes to you immediately, right? But if guys like Tyreek Hill want to be the highest paid at something, or want to be near the highest paid, then the easiest way to do that is the annual salary, with a little bit of a nice bonus. Then you sort of prorate that out, and then the last year of that deal is basically funny money. So when it comes to the average annual salary, I think the line is $29 million. As we've talked about before, the TJ Watt contract is something to sort of build around. Obviously, you know what the franchise tag number would be, which is $32 million for 1 year. You're not going to do that. Obviously, they've tagged L'Jarius Sneed. We'll get to him in a minute. But I think the line is 29. Now, again, you could backload some of that in the last year of a 3 or 4 year deal, right? The legitimacy for Chris is, can you get 2 years of real money and get a nice signing bonus and get some decent guarantees on top of that? That's where the mix really comes. I think if push comes to it, the Chiefs will be comfortable with giving him $29 million a year. 30 is where it gets a little bit hairy, because they still want to establish that we're not going to be in the Aaron Donald realm, which is 31.6, and you're not as young as Nick Bosa, even though you're a better player right now than Nick Bosa. So there's a lot of factors, but I think the headline is look somewhere in that $29 to $28 million range, because if you get anywhere close to free agency, like on Monday or Tuesday of next week, then yeah, now we're talking real dollars, and now it's up for like the Houston Texans to offer 30. It's up for the Raiders to offer 31 or 32 to sort of push the Chiefs to a uncomfortable place, to where they actually might say we need to hold our line on this. The best case scenario for the Chiefs is, say, Thursday, when we're recording this show, that they agree to some 2 to 3 year, maybe even 4-year deal.
When we're recording Thursday's show, Seth, I can tell you're confused. Sorry, Nate. Go
ahead. On Thursday when we're recording this show, hopefully give me a little runway, fellas. That they would sign him for, I don't know, 28.5, 29.5, somewhere in that range, so that you don't have to get to like the nitty gritty of like sweating bullets at, what is it? I think 11 a.m. on Monday is when you can legally start tampering, where other teams can start actually legally tampering with agents. And then obviously,
and like fully formulated deals are announced at like
out of thin air.
Out of the sky. Yeah, out of the sky. I mean, it's not like these people were in Indianapolis or anything. What? I didn't say that. Redact that, Your Honor.
Strike that from the record. Yep. Nate, I don't know if you have the information to answer this directly, or if you have the clearance to answer this directly. If you have the information, is there a feeling that the Chiefs deadline, is there a soft deadline for the Chiefs and Chris Jones at the beginning of the tampering period, where they're like, hey man, sign with us before you hit the market, or we're going to go ahead and call it and put our money elsewhere? Or is there a chance that this drags on for a few days and into actual free agency?
It's possible that this could drag on into actual free agency. I mean, if Chris has come this far, there's something to be said, and I know I'm not the first person to say this, but like Seth knows that like it's something to be said when like you actually get to the legal tampering period, to where like, okay, real offers are on the table. I can legitimately take them, and I'm in this sort of purgatory where I'm not totally a free agent, but I'm also like not totally removed from like returning. It's pretty much one of the last plays he has. It's one of the last cards he could use. This could go all the way up until Wednesday. I think free agency starts technically Wednesday on the 13th or whatever. And so a lot of times you see guys push it all the way up to Wednesday right before free agency starts to see if they can squeeze out another year or another incentive or another dollar amount of some kind, or get maybe a little bit more guarantees. And look, that's
positional bargaining for you.
Yeah, that's understandable. But the put up or shut up, I think, is usually next Tuesday, if nothing's done, because at that point, other teams will have given you what they can maximum offer based on their own structures, their own cap situation, their own roster, and then you have Tuesday to Wednesday to either let your former team match that or surpass it before free agency starts. And then, of course, the fireworks really do begin.
Let's talk about L'Jarius Sneed then, because there haven't been exactly fireworks yet, but some things officially now handled. He has officially been franchise tagged. It was all very much in the works, I think maybe for the last few shows we've done, but now he has been tagged. We have seen a couple of teams come out here and there, I think, Nate. But I also know that you and Diana Rossini have been on this L'Jarius Sneed trail here for a little bit. So what do you know right now about L'Jarius Sneed currently under the tag? Would be just under $20 million to play under the tag. I want to know the full scope of what you know first, and then we'll be able to dig into some details here.
Are we ready for me to announce the teams on this here show?
Yes, very much so.
Now, guys.
Bring that Daryl commenter guy back so he knows this is a real show.
Oh come on.
Those holding comment grades we didn't even address in the actual show itself.
Oh, no, yeah, we did. And a guy named Daryl who spells his name wrong is being a jerk.
It's fine. Seth, hold on, Nate, hold on.
Yes.
I'm gonna do this for the social clip here. I'm gonna save everybody some trouble. We're gonna have a nice little tidy one.
Here, hang on. Which side? Oh,
that one. Side. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Yep. Nate's getting a drink and action. Nate, I know you and Diana Rossini have been on the L'Jarius Sneed story this entire time. Are you ready to reveal right here on Only Weird Games the teams who are interested in acquiring L'Jarius Sneed from the Kansas City Chiefs?
Why, yes, Josh, we are ready. Now, you can look this up on your own. You can figure out what teams have what picks. But as we know, the Detroit Lions are interested. The Atlanta Falcons are lurking. The Indianapolis Colts are interested. The Vikings need help. And the New England Patriots might do something crazy.
That's 5.
Now, if I recall, Nate, when we were talking earlier about teams interested in free agents, the number of teams that are interested in something matters a great deal in terms of leverage and offers.
Sure.
Does that also apply when you have a player who is franchise tagged to potentially be traded?
Why, yes, Seth. This puts L'Jarius Sneed in a position where either he agrees to a contract that's more team-friendly for the Kansas City Chiefs, or the Kansas City Chiefs get, I don't know, a second-round pick, or a 3rd and a 5, or a 3rd and a 6 for the services of L'Jarius Sneed to another team. Now, yes, Josh, I mentioned only 5 teams, and I know in my original reporting last week that I said that there were at least 6 teams. This is how fluid these things have become.
Right.
That 6th team will remain a mystery, and they are doing things that are interesting. Now, they might be in and they might be out, and they may come back into it, but as of right now, these are the 5 teams we are comfortable announcing.
Nate, does this mean can we also do the best thing in sports reporting and then officially say there are those 5 teams and one mystery team lurking in the shadows?
Yes, we can say that. Yes.
Reporting is worth it.
The Vikings
we can say
make
that.
sense because the
The Vikings
who blitzes like 70% of their snaps. Ryan Flores. And
you know what the Vikings are doing? Looking at the Lions and saying, "Oh hell no, not on my watch." So look, there is what I would say a pretty robust market for L'Jarius Sneed, and I think the Colts, with their decision to franchise tag someone today, put themselves in a multifaceted adventure story where they can choose their adventure in a certain way if they so choose. Now, they have a little bit more earnest to maybe sign their player to a long-term extension. You can use the franchise tag to give yourself more time, but franchise tag for franchise tag.
Whoa.
Hey,
What?
Whoa!
That's not what I thought you were going to say.
Hold on.
Can you guys always
Whoa.
Of the 5 teams you just said,
Nah, he's
not all of them franchise tag someone.
Correct. Even somebody transition tagged someone today, which, I mean, raises an eyebrow or 2 in the league.
The Colts franchise tagged someone.
He did.
A wide receiver, actually.
Yeah, where'd he get drafted? I can never remember.
Interesting.
Can you guys, the audience, can you always tell when Nate says something to us that he's definitely not said to us before? Because that might have been the most, cartoonish boing moment we've ever had. Because Nate said that, and Seth and I were both thinking about the next thing we were going to say and moving on to the next topic. And then it was like, well, Michael Pittman. Oh, okay. Well, well, then if you're going to, you didn't say that, but I said it, and you didn't say, but I did.
Whoa! Now look, this is just,
Okay,
educated speculation.
I have a take here. I have a take here based on Nate's speculation that he's not reporting anything at all.
This is this is educated speculation based on reporting in and around the league. Yes.
Oh, Seth, this lines up so good for you, man.
I am all in on the idea of, so a lot of people are talking about free agents the Chiefs could sign, which makes sense for obvious reasons. They need a receiver. I know that they are maybe very likely to draft a receiver in the first round, but we just saw in 2023 one of the problems with putting all your eggs in young wide receiver baskets. They need at least one veteran. So yeah, you could sign. You've got Ridley, you've got Brown, and then you've got and even those guys, neither of them are there's some things there. I think both of them would do well. I think Mooney would do well. I think
none of them are Mike Evans, who has signed back with the Bucs since the last episode of the show.
Correct.
And so one thing that I love is the idea of you have a legitimate player in Sneed that if there's a team that maybe thinks maybe long-term they won't be able to keep a certain receiver around, whether it's a guy who's already on contract for a few years like Scary Terry and you save a little money on it, and I'm not a reporter, everyone knows this, right? Or it's a guy like Deontay Johnson who's in the last year, or a guy like Michael Pittman who's been franchise tagged. Like, there are options here for what you could do to go get yourself someone who could plug into the offense immediately, and you would end up paying the equivalent of what you might in free agency for a better player. And that's important.
And the ability to negotiate with that player essentially exclusively.
And that's a big deal. And that's, I love it. It's just right in the wheelhouse of me saying, I like Calvin Ridley just fine. I like Darnell Mooney just fine. I like Hollywood Brown better than most because I think he threatens all three areas of the field. But I love the idea of utilizing. They've got a unique asset here with L'Jarius Sneed. I think you get more value in trading for a veteran receiver that you know can play, that you know can come in, and you're not going to have this full year of, well, he's got to learn the offense. Andy Reid's offense is hard. You have the ability to do this, and then you still have all your draft picks. And so, sure, take another receiver in the second round too, but then you can do something else in the first round, and you're not desperate. Don't be desperate going into the draft. That was what drove me nuts last year, is they felt desperate going into the draft, and I don't want that again this year. So I'm just saying, if that were to be something they decide to do, especially a guy that can play on the boundary a ton because Rashee Rice is at his best in the slot, a guy who's, I'm just saying, a guy who can threaten down the field a little bit is still more of a possession guy but can threaten all three levels. I love it.
Both guys work hard. Both guys are well educated. Both guys have been brought up in a similar fashion. Both guys are not going to change theoretically based on, earning a contract.
You're paying a number one wide receiver, though. Like, you're paying a number one receiver like a number one receiver.
And you ain't got no cornerbacks. So, potentially a win-win. One of the rare win-wins, maybe.
Depending on what you're able to negotiate with someone exclusively in terms of, would I pay Pittman $20 million a year? Sure. Would I pay him, 25, 30? No. And that's where, like, the amounts matter here. All that stuff matters. But I love the idea of at least thinking about it. In theory, with educated speculation. That was really exciting, Nate. We should do that more often.
We really should. I've been holding it all day for you. I've been waiting for these moments, to let everybody in on the friendship that we have. I know you're tickled there, Josh. What can I do for you?
Apparently nothing you could do to me that was as good as that was for Seth. I mean, that's clearly Seth's the one having the best time here, but I'm still having a good one. I'm a little bit conflicted because a big reason that I think the Sneed trade makes sense is because you are resetting that rookie rotation and those rookie contracts, and if it's why a second round pick for Sneed feels way different to me than like a third and a sixth or a future third and a fifth now, whatever. Right. Because the idea of getting a legitimate impact level player on a rookie contract is a tremendous place to be. Adam Schefter just tweeted on the top free agent. I think it's about Kirk Cousins. It is. He's the second top free agent. Chris Jones is the best free agent available right now. He just doesn't play quarterback. Take that, elite coastal media.
He also has his Achilles intact.
He was out there dancing, though. Aaron Rodgers wasn't doing a Magic Mike routine that shortly after ripping it. I don't know. I think there's something there.
Guys, Kirk Cousins is going to make so much money. It's going to be absolutely wild. He's going to do it again. He's going to do it again. I love Kirk Cousins. He's going to do it again. Pay me in cold cash. Rate it on me.
Does that solve? I mean, again, if you're
Atlanta's problems, no. But come on, Atlanta, do it, baby, do it. I mean, don't do it because Ryan Poles really needs you to call him back, but do it, damn it.
So,
can we get Kirk Cousins in Atlanta in black ass Atlanta slinging that thing to Kyle Pitts? Maybe
that is
occasionally. Hopefully,
that's an interesting fit.
I hope it happens.
Raheem,
I am curious.
Hey, Raheem, you want to get that defense right? Get Kirk Cousins on the line. and trade for L'Jarius Sneed. Do something, Atlanta. That's all I'm asking. Do something. Either call Chicago or give all of your money to Kirk Cousins. He's gonna do it again. I can't.
Also, Russell Wilson got cut. That's freaking wild, man. I remember what this show was like 2 years ago.
Coming off an Achilles, and he's gonna make all the money.
I think he just keeps gaining strength.
Love this sport.
So, Josh, is you're concerned with Pittman that he might be more similar to like a top-ish of the market deal? Like, I don't think he's going to ask for Tyreek money.
Yeah, no, I think it's that the math changes for me when it's trading away a blue chip player for a rookie contract that has a chance to be at least an impact player for you right away, as opposed to trading a blue chip player for an upper level, but not an wide receiver impact versus cornerback impact might make it more or less even. But L'Jarius Sneed is a high-ranking corner than Pittman is a receiver right now.
Right.
But
you're projecting for.
I'm thinking about it financially, just the contracts and everything. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely extend Chris Jones and give an extension to Pittman and keep the rest of your train moving as you've traded Sneed. It's not that they couldn't pull any of that off, but the idea of there being a financial benefit to moving on from Sneed isn't there anymore. So that's the part of it that it's just that becomes a neutral, but you're also getting a more or less proven commodity. I also, frankly, have not watched enough Michael Pittman to be fully ready to plant my flag on one side or that or the other. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here.
All I'm saying is, guys, I know. Thank you, Liv Moss. The microphone is he's trying.
We all are.
Can I just tell the audience that let me look up Kirk Cousins' age right now, because
clearly you can do whatever you want, Nate. I mean, there's. I love it when Nate asks if he can do something.
Should I get my family members in to watch the show so that way we can do some Viking stuff here?
He's 35. He's 35. Thank God for Tom Brady. Salute this man. Tom Brady is gonna get Kirk Cousins paid again because he's 35. He was born in 1988. Me and Kirk Cousins are essentially the same person, and I have my Achilles. I'm not coming off an Achilles injury in a violent sport. Yet he about to make so much money. I love this sport. Atlanta, please do it to me, baby.
His
do it
fire
to me.
pit is going to be amazing.
Unbelievable. Come on. In southern Georgia?
Yeah, he's got to get some land for sure, though. He can't be living. He's not going to be
on. He's 35 coming off an Achilles, and they said, hey, put out the tape of him on the tennis courts. Look at that footwork. Look at that Achilles tension muscle going through it. Look at the drop backs. We on a tennis court. We ain't cleats on a field. Nah, baby. Give me the short, quick goals. Give me the up and downs. Give me the 5-step to 7-step drop on a hard court. Why is he on a tennis court? Why is he on a tennis court? Sorry. Let's not do cleats on a grass field like, most human beings. Let's get them on some dad sneaks on the hard court indoors. $45 million.
Kirk Cousins is going to have people believing in Joel Osteen's version of Christianity any second here. Just look at the blessings rain down on this man.
Him. What does this man got to do for you?
Unbelievable. You have been faithful in a little. Here's $45 million.
To play quarterback.
I don't know, Seth. I haven't seen all that much prosperity making it up to the Vikings in the playoffs, so maybe we still have some hope there.
Now look, Walmart's got a lot of money, and if Sean Payton gets crazy enough, he might call.
Can you imagine?
He might call Kirk Cousins if it gets really bad, guys.
But $70 million into the quarterback position this year?
Right.
There's no way.
One guy who's dead to him, and one guy who's coming back from an Achilles at 35.
They're
not 25 kids, 35. Have you talked to Derek Johnson when he tore his Achilles? It was a wrap, kids, and he wasn't playing quarterback.
All things are possible with faith, Nate. And so
Guys, I feel like we've hit the market. Seth, did you have an actual point? I couldn't tell if you're about to just vamp because you feel like you needed to vamp, or if you had if you have an actual point, by all means.
No, I was just going to say you definitely make a good point to move us back to the idea of like Pittman or another wide receiver whose contract you got to do. I think if it's not a very top of market guy like Justin Jefferson, who the Vikings would never trade anyway, and it would take way too much anyway, and all that. I think, like, say, like a guy like Pittman, you might end up, like, let's say Ridley gets 16 to 17 million a year in free agency this year, or 18 million a year. Let's say you're able to get Pittman for 20 million or 21 or whatever, right? Because you've got that exclusive ability to. So then really what you're getting there isn't just the receiver, it's also the ability to get a much better one without having to break the bank too much more. So it's not necessarily, because you got to remember you're not spending that 15, 16 million now on that other guy. So that helps. But I do think you're right that it feels a little, it's still a forward move, but it's a little more lateral than it might be otherwise with the cap.
And again, this is like real simple math. This isn't going to change any NFL teams forever. But alternatively, you sign Calvin Ridley for 18, and then you trade L'Jarius Sneed for a second round pick, and now you have pick 60 or whatever,
right?
And Calvin Ridley instead of having what. So I mean, there's your game, I guess, right? Would you rather have Calvin Ridley in a second or Michael Pittman? Maybe that's the way you can kind of math it. And we're not going to be able to do that directly because we don't know exactly what teams are offering there. But in that, and I'm not necessarily a Calvin Ridley guy at this moment in time, so I don't know what my answer even is. But I love the draft picks because they make the player more valuable when their cost is controlled. But Seth, if only someone had written about other ways to find value in a way that pays off in a Super Bowl season. Let me just check my email. Oh, what's this? From the Chiefs of the North newsletter, mnchiefsfan.substack.com. In Veach we trust. Seth, did Brett Veach do something this last offseason that you wanted to bring around? Not to be concerned, it can be confused with offseason lessons, which is a totally different thing that we'll get to later.
Well, I mean, we're not going to get to it later. Come on.
Maybe.
Yeah,
not later today, just later. By week one.
Yes, so every year that the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, which feels constantly at this point, I try to take a look at some of the moves that got them there. I did it after 2019. I did it after last year. I did it again this year. And this year was a lot of fun because every year that the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, it becomes more and more Brett Veach's team with more and more of his imprint on it. Now, you are always going to have the reality that the core of the team is Mahomes, Kelsey, Jones, Reed, Spags. That's not Veach's baby. But one of the points that I tried to make in the article I wrote today is that there's no other Mahomes, but there's lots of great quarterbacks in the league. There's lots of great quarterbacks with great coaches. There's lots of great defensive players. There's lots of great defensive coordinators. There's lots of great weapons because Travis Kelce transcends his position. And none of them are winning back-to-back because you also need to build around them. You need to, getting to the Super Bowl, it's not just about having a great quarterback. Otherwise, Josh Allen might have won more than like one playoff game throughout his career, however many he's won. And so what I really want to do this year, especially because, again, more and more of the roster is kind of the roster that Veach built. And this year, he basically, you can argue, the tackle position I don't think went exactly the way he wanted it to, because I don't know if Jawan Taylor ever really recovered from, the early season kind of shenaniganries and having to change the way he's played for a decade. But outside of that, when you look at like the low-key stuff Veach did this year, he hit on basically every move in an offseason where they were handicapped by the weirdness of Chris Jones's contract and not really able to get out there. And so that's what I wrote about as like the best moves he made. I didn't do it in any ranking, but he really, like, if you look at, he grabbed three major defensive contributors in Charles Omenihu, in Drew Tranquill, and Mike Edwards for like a total this season of like $9 million in cap, if that. And these weren't just, he found some role players. Each one of these guys was asked to play a huge role in the defense and was a huge part of them taking a step from a competent defense last year, which they were down the stretch, even a good defense last year down the stretch, to an elite defense this year. If you don't have those guys, I don't think it happens, especially when Brian Cook goes down. Mike Edwards just slides in and plays really well. He just crushed it. And then the draft, once again, for the fifth year in a row, he grabbed multiple immediate contributors. Now, I don't think it wasn't quite as hot as the 2022 draft because that draft was insane.
Nothing will ever be that hot.
No, that was absolutely crazy. But they grabbed, they got a red shirt. They got a red shirt guy in the first round. Okay, FAU was like the second youngest dude in the draft or something. Fair enough. But they grabbed Rashee Rice, Shamari Connor, and Wanye Morris. If you just want to look at guys that contributed immediately this year. Wanye Morris, if he doesn't come in and at least play at a passable level, who knows what happens during that time frame when a lot of things were going badly as it was.
Is Lucas Niang there probably with Prince Tegenwogo being out by that point? Like you're probably talking about starting left tackle Lucas Niang or shuffling other pieces.
And I'm sure you mentioned this too, Seth. Like he traded up in the second, third, and fourth rounds to select each of those players. Moved up in the second round to get Rice, move up in the third round to get Morris, and was like, bleep it. Let's just get Shamari Connor, who Dave Merritt will think will stink in a couple months, but I'll look smart anyway.
Right, who Dave Merritt will like take this clay and mold him into a good safety, and they needed that because again Cook went down, so he ended up playing a huge role in how versatile he is and all that. But then really getting Rashee Rice, like they made a bet on their young guys at wide receiver. It didn't pay off with Sky Moore, and it didn't pay off with Kadarius Toney. So Veach caught some heat for that, and rightfully so. You made a bet, didn't work out, fair enough. But I want to circle back to the bet he made in a minute here because he also made a really good move on who he didn't bring back. But with Rashee Rice, I don't think it's an exaggeration. We've talked about this before to say that Rashee Rice being on the Chiefs, and credit to the coaches and to Mahomes for developing him and saying, good Lord, man, we need you to be more. Had they not taken Rice and had him develop into what he is, I don't think there's any way they win the Super Bowl this year. I don't think there's any way the offense takes the steps forward that it needs to make. And so that's worth noting, and it's worth applauding a guy that fills out the roster with kind of those low-key moves. That's really hard to do. And the Chiefs arguably had one of their most complete rosters while building around a quarterback who's on a $500 million contract. I think that's incredibly impressive, and he deserves his flowers for that.
Yes.
You also talked about Mike Pennel there, and in a story that we're not going to fully dive into that we mentioned on Tuesday, or I guess Thursday last week, that people can read about Leo Chenal, Tershawn Wharton, and Mike Pennel. Can you contextualize the Mike Pennel thing a little bit? Because we've mentioned him plenty on this show, but it is so wild considering who he is, where he was previously, the role he ended up having, the small amount that he played, and the level at which he did play when he got on the field. Give us a couple Mike Pennel goodies here to connect those two stories.
The great thing about Mike Pennel is he barely played, like up until like the last few weeks of the season. And then the playoffs hit and Derek Nottie was out and they were like, hey, how'd you like to play like half the defensive snaps in the playoffs and then the Super Bowl? Oh, by the way, we're going to play a bunch of teams that are awesome at running the ball.
Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and there's Christian McCaffrey. Yeah,
the 49ers buzzsaw, and I covered him when I wrote about him and Leo Chenal and the fact that they and Tershawn Wharton, shout out to him as well. He's a free agent this year. I hope they bring him back. Mike Pennel, though, he played really, really well in the playoffs. Like not just like, oh, really well for a late season signing, but genuinely well above average. And was able to help shut down a 49ers run game that was supposed to run all over them. That's why they couldn't run the ball. That's why they didn't run the ball more, because they were averaging 3.5 yards a carry with their running backs. And Mike Pennel was a huge part of that. And the thing that's so cool about that, to me, is it's maybe demonstrative as when some of these guys hit that, 31, 32, 33, not all guys, but some of them, you reach a point to where the value of having fresh legs the last month of the season, it's just incredible. NFL players talk all the time about how by the end of the season, everyone's hurt. No one's healthy. And Mike Pennell's walking around like, guys, I feel great.
And I'm in rhythm now. Yeah.
Yeah, in the meantime, Nick Allegretti's playing with like half his arm dangling off. And Mike Pennel is like, oh, man, guys, it feels good to just get up and move around a little bit, Yes. And that's like just another little teeny low-key one. Does that mean Mike Pennel, should get a $5 million a year contract with him? No, but it's recognizing, hey, we've got this need. We know this guy can get it done. Let's bring him in at the appropriate time. I love it. And it's those low-key moves, understanding not to give Juju Smith-Schuster $16 million guaranteed. Those things matter.
Yeah,
even though they enough of those.
Even though they loved Juju, loved him, would have been thrilled to bring him back. We're trying actually pretty hard.
The Patriots deal with the dead money of cutting him and then bring him back this year, because I would do that yesterday.
Yeah.
Too much dead money right now? Seth's story mentioned it. I didn't look at the spot track.
Yeah. Also, Mike Pennell, incredible locker room guy. Freaking credible. Elevates everybody's mood. Is not like he's just an energy giver. He's very knowledgeable. Him and Chris kind of have their own sort of unique bond. I know Chris was really happy when Mike Pennell came back and sort of understood like where he was going to be in terms of the team's potential plan for the postseason. So not only is he got all the experience and all the veteran savviness, but like he's also just like a really good teacher. He understands like what his role is in the locker room. And I just, these are things that I can't go into too much detail, but I could just tell you that like his presence was somewhat similar to like what Carlos Dunlap was for, say, a guy like, George Karlaftis in year one. And the fact that he played out of his mind in the Super Bowl, on top of just being a guy that isn't just ready, but knows exactly what it takes to be successful. I just thought it was a marvelous performance. What Nick Allegretti did, obviously Leo Chenal, he's a bit younger, but like these are all the unsung heroes that do need their sort of work acknowledged, because they don't. I mean they they don't play. The defense does not play as well and holds the line long enough for the offense to catch up if Mike Pennell's not on the field. And that's just crazy because Chris Jones is like right next to him, just wreaking havoc throughout the game. So yeah, I'm so happy that like I read that, and it's just really cool too that like Brett Veach understands that like every piece matters because of the quarterback, because of the head coach, because of Hall of Fame tight end. And if you do it the right way, it might be not as glamorous as other people in his same position, but he has had the sustained amount of success because he sort of ebbs and flows with what those guys need year in, year out, and that is to Seth's point.
I think that's it. Looks like we're over an hour, so I'm not going to get to off-season lessons today, but probably Thursday I'll get to talk about like the really important things that I think we learned from last off-season that would apply to how we do things this off-season, but it's going to take a little more, and we're already over an hour. So with that being said, Seth, any final thoughts before Nate gets us out of here?
Just that I really just appreciate Nate breaking news that gets us excited here on this year's show.
I'm happy to do it.
It makes for a lot of speculation that's fun, and there's so many things that just happen. There's so many possibilities right now. This is the fun part of the off season.
Yes,
the possibilities are endless.
Correct.
And then we'll see. We've got the present. It's sitting underneath the Christmas tree, and we'll see what it is. We'll see what it is,
guys. They gave Von Miller all that money when you and I both know he wasn't Von Miller no more. And I just want to be there. I just want to be in the room when Kirk Cousins is like, sure, I'll come to Atlanta. Sure, I'll come to Vegas. Like, I just want to be there. If Derek Carr got all that money last year, these boys ain't gonna control themselves over Kirk Cousins. He did it again, guys. Just in life, we all need to have. I don't know what it is that I need to learn in my field, in my industry, in my career from Kirk Cousins, but I gotta start getting in the lab, because whatever this man's doing, we need to deconstruct it, look at it, marvel at it, and then try to apply it to our own lives. Now, I'm not calling this man a preacher, but we know his faith. We know his story. Do I need to shop at Kohl's? Maybe I do. I don't know. But, like,
Kohl's cash is unbelievable.
He's going to make so much money. And I know, and shout out to you, Ross Sawyer. I did get my gift. I did want to say thank you. Shout out to Tucker. Shout out to BJ. It is exceptional. Only Ross knows this. Nobody else needs to know it. He said, Nate, you should give a shout out to a random NFL franchise. All right. Here's how we're going to end the show today. Are you ready? Josh, can you guess the franchise that we need to give a shout out that's not what this podcast is dedicated towards? I can't wait for his random team.
Staying with the same draft class. L'Jarius Sneed, you are a Cincinnati Bengal. T. Higgins comes back?
I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Start watching Michael Pittman film.
I don't think they pick up each other's. Do they even call one another? I guess I gotta figure that out. Here's a random.
Bengals would probably drop it towards the end.
Here's a random shout out. This is very on the peripheral, but Josh and I watched it. I know Seth was actually doing the Lord's work in his actual job, but Jason Kelsey giving us 45 minutes of just pure emotions and thoughts and feelings. You could clearly tell that he gave a lot of time to his retirement announcement. It was unfortunate that it kind of got leaked the day after their season ends, or maybe even that night. But like, information travels. We all get it. But like, I am happy that like, it's so rare in an NFL setting where everything stops for one person. Everything in the Philadelphia Eagles organization stopped. I know Mike Garafolo got the photo from somebody in the Eagles organization that was like, look at everybody in the cafeteria, just watch this man talk about how much football and fans and the relationship that comes from all of this means to him. And sometimes we get lost in all of that. But like, you know, football is a team sport and it really galvanizes everyone who's associated with it. And to watch Travis Kelce cry pretty much looking at his future, that was the thing that came to mind. I was like, wow, Travis Kelce sees the future and it's not pretty, kid. Like, you know, he's obviously coming back, but he understands that, you know, his time is winding down just as well. And so I just want to appreciate that the Eagles stopped everything for one person, for one employee who's going to walk out the door. And he plays center. He does not score touchdowns. He doesn't sack the quarterback. He doesn't get turnovers. He just snaps the ball to the other dude. And he deserves praise. And it was really cool to see that, like, when there are retirements of that magnitude, that they can still resonate with people. So the Eagles get a shout out, Ross. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the gift. I think I've gotten some great sleep because I'm back from Indianapolis. Hallelujah. We'll, you know, Holly and I will continue to fight on for the confetti. It's a lot, guys. It's so much. Pray for us. And I mean that legitimately. Pray that we can deliver on our word. But I don't know. I just want to know
if the NFL world slows down when the Eagles trade A.J. Brown for L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah, of course. And who knows? They might be the 16th. They might not. Who knows? Who knows? Howie's always lurking, though, ain't he? Howie Roseman is always making that extra call, just saying, hey, what if I got in on the action?
Always marking.
Can you imagine the fire Kirk